Good afternoon. My name is Wayne Berry, your small business specialist assigned to National Institutes of Health. I'm also assigned to Health Resources Services Administration, which are two subdivisions within HHS. I am going to be honest with you in that I am not very technically proficient. So I'm going to do my best. I have done this in the small business program for years, 13 years across two agencies. But when it comes to technology, when it comes to these video conferences, see, something goes wrong. Hold on for a second. Let me grab this. All right, sorry about that delay, interruption. So what we're going to talk about is the federal small business program, construction, facilities management, facilities maintenance. I'm going to leave the juicy stuff to Jeff. I'm going to give you the overview and an idea of where we are as the federal government and how we're moving in meeting the needs for quality products and services in the federal government. What is going on now is the push for more efficient, more effective procurement, greater efficiency in the process, greater speed in the process, fewer delays in the process. I will give you an example. When you have full and open competition, there's often the opportunity for individuals to protest. Sometimes they may protest over issues. They may, I'll give you an example. So Veteran Affairs, where I served, they have Public Law 109461. And an award, you may award to a veteran-owned small business, and an interested party, say number 2 or number 3 on that list, may protest the status of the awardee, and you can't award the procurement until the protest is settled. So what would happen is there would be an adjudication, there'd be a decision made, and maybe they'd say, okay, we found out that number 1 is not a veteran-owned small business, and they take them out of consideration. So number 2 becomes the apparent winner. Well, then the third party may say, wait a minute, I protest that guy's status as a veteran-owned. And believe it or not, I've seen that happen over and again at Veteran Affairs. It actually killed the process. So the government is really moving towards greater efficiency, greater effectiveness, and that is category management. That is blanket purchase agreements. That in construction, we're talking about multiple award task order contracts, MATOCs. And the thing that's different about those is that the small business program does not apply the same way it does under full and open competition. When we read about FAR Part 19, we're talking about it's mainly towards full and open competition. When we're talking about MATOCs, when we're talking about blanket purchase agreements, we're talking about FAR Part 8, or FAR Part 16, where the consideration of small business is optional to the CO. Now, I know that there are some people who will say, well, wait a minute, Wayne, I'm talking about construction, and aren't we required to go full and open with small business for construction? Are we supposed to give consideration to small business? And yes, that is true. There is some things I will have to admit that the government hasn't fully ironed out as far as policy. There may be some conflicts in between this policy and that policy. But what I am sharing with you is this is the trend that the government is going with right now. And you should be aware of that. So what I prepared for you today are 8 slides, maybe 10, to give you an understanding of where HHS, how we buy with small business, especially in construction and facilities management. I will do my best not to overstate not to get on, not to step on Jeff's toes, because I think really the person who you all came to see is Jeff, and his experience and his ability and what he knows about construction procurement here at NIH. But let's see what we could talk about within the rest of HHS. So here, I'm going to try to share my screen here. And I think we're doing it here. Yeah, we're going to go to a slideshow. All right. This slide, of course, will be available for you. I've already sent it to Miranda. Also, in addition to this slide presentation, the list of active solicitations for construction and facilities management at HHS. There are sources sought announcements. I think there are about 10 of them that are right now active on the street. That slide or that list is an Excel spreadsheet, and I shared that with Miranda, and I'm sure she'll be able to share that with you along with this presentation. Okay, so HHS construction over the past 3 years. As you see, we really only have 2 offices that do a great deal of construction. Most of the facilities at HHS are leased facilities. But so when you see Center for Disease Control, when you see Food and Drug Administration, they maintain a large campus, and they have some satellite offices. Center for Disease Control, of course, you know that's in Atlanta, Georgia, or just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. They have actually, I was able to visit that compound a couple of years ago. A lot of older buildings. They do have to deal with maintenance and upkeep. So that may be an opportunity for you. Indian Health Services has a lot of offices. I was surprised at the amount of construction that they did when I ran this and then we have ASPR and the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Administration. Now, we're looking at the last 3 years. The year that shall not be named, obviously there was a lot of things that happened. When you see $1.18 billion in subtotal spent for that year, there was a lot of money spent in some emergencies that I think may have overlapped into construction. Includes the border protection situation, the migrants at the border. Some construction work may have been done, emergency construction done for that. And you may see those numbers, especially under the ASPR, Office of Secretary for Preparedness and Response. A ton of money was dumped in there for that one, and a lot of other things. So I wouldn't say 2020, I would say 2020 is an outlier, but I would say 2019 is a fair representation of how we're spending the money in construction here at HHS. So, and of course, this is for NAICS 23. So everything, I know that there are a lot of specific categories and disciplines under construction, but I tried to give it to 10,000 foot level view here. Construction awards for small business. To be honest, we do a concerted effort to award to small business whenever we can, especially when it comes to construction. I think we do very well in construction small business awards. We not only exceeded, I think in most categories, we double or triple our goals in those categories. And as you see, the same players in the first slide are here again, well represented. Let's see. Oh. Office of Research Facilities at the National Institutes of Health. This is the office that deals with the planning of a massive compound at the National Institutes of Health. Well, it's a campus, more like a collegiate campus. It's a great place if you've ever been or visited. Also, if you have the opportunity, what I was going to do is I was going to click on these and take you to the links, but I think Jeff is going to also have a presentation, so I don't want to kind of double up here, but this is where Office of Research Facilities, they do their planning, facilities maintenance, all kinds of things. The acquisition office for ORF, as we call it, they also have quarterly outreach events for small business. And that's an opportunity for you to meet contracting professionals, buying construction products and services, also program managers who have requirements that they need to have, that they want to have discussions with the public. If you have an opportunity to do that, I would schedule a meeting to try to get in a quarterly event. Let's see, organization, go to the same slide. Under the ORF Office of Acquisitions, here are the branch chiefs, facility services chiefs, leaders, and you want to reach out to these folks about when's their next scheduled event, how to come in on their quarterly events, and also what's upcoming. All right, I'm going to. You guys have no idea. This is a challenge for me. All right, so leaving NIH, we'll talk about recent contracting engineering awards. When I ran this, because I kind of anticipated that someone's going to say, okay, that's great for construction, but what about engineering services, architect engineering, and everything under the 541 category, 541, 310, 330, 380. There's some 541-4s in there too. I ran a report to search for those awards, those recent awards, and I found a lot of work under Indian Health Services. And as you can see, they have 3 of those categories. And a lot of that work, the majority of that work went to small business. And I'm glad to see that. I'm sure you are too. So that's what we have as far as the construction is concerned. From my side on a small business perspective, it's really important to know, and this is what I tell every vendor, it's not just what we buy, but how we buy it. It's not just who buys it, but how they're buying it. And what we're seeing is full and open competition is not as popular as it used to be. It's this category management, IDIQs, schedules. These are the ways to go. Now, if you're a small business, how do you interact with the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization? I want to tell you that our office with the Department of Health and Human Services is probably one of the most forward-thinking, state-of-the-art when it comes to a small business program. I try to stay humble about that. There's a fine line between pride and not right? But I will say that our office has been without a small business program director since the Obama administration. What is that, 5 years? And we have continued to advance the program in a way using people, processes, and technology that still accomplishes the mission that allows us to be as impactful as possible as advocates for small business. We do our best not to see ourselves as bureaucrats. We do our best to see ourselves as consultants in the small business program, to senior leadership within the organization, and to the small business community. And as part of the technology phase, our office led by our deputy director, acting director sometimes, Michelle Street, created and launched the Small Business Customer Experience, SBCX. And I could show you better than I could tell you. So What SBCX does is it's a web-based program that shares with you, that brings together both sides of our clientele, industry and government, where you can learn about how to do business with HHS. You may learn about our small business programs. And you may also list your company in our database of vendors. What we do now, when we meet, say we meet vendors, we can create a database. We have a database. We also can add notes to each time we meet that vendor. And if we can say, hey, they're very interested in the construction facilities, the upcoming building C renovations, we can add that in the notes, and we can come back to those notes, or another small business specialist can come back to those notes and say, okay, great, I got a guy. So that when program asks for someone, we have them on tap. Let me see if I can find a company. X Corp. Let me see if X Corp is around here. Boom. Okay, so X Corp didn't come up, but it gave me some other options. Let me see if I can see construction. All right.
Excuse me, Wayne, this is Marcos.
Yes.
You have to transfer the screen that you're looking at to your desktop so we can read along with you.
Thank you, Marcos. Let me take you to this one.
Yes, thank you, Marcos. I was about to let him know. You might have to.
You see that now?
Got it. Perfect.
All right. So let's go back to it. So here we are at my SBCX and doing business with HHS. A lot of general things. If you're an experienced small business, if you're experienced at marketing to the small business program, this is all old hat to you. But if you're new, and if you're saying, hey, I'm just getting to the small business program, I'm just getting to marketing to federal government, what do I need to know? This is a great first step. And for those who may not be big on reading, we actually have a video for you to help you through that too. And we talk about the spending trends, the target marketing at each operating division. We talk about, eligibility and things like that. Let's see if we can get to this directory. So let me see if I can find. I'm looking up for construction, right? So let's go to Abode Incorporated, right? And as you see this, the NAICS code they like to operate under, they're an 8A. They're also a hub zone. Now, what our database does, let's say you go to register your company on our database. You enter your DUNS number, and our system automatically reaches over to Beta SAM, and it pulls your data. So here we are with the DUNS number, the information, the primary address, everything that you've listed with the Beta SAM program that's listed with this SBA, we will have up till when they were last updated. I guess they started last month here. So this is one of the best. It will also give us the history. So if you have your contract history, award history, we will also have that information too in this. This firm is not as in-depth as we would like it to be, but maybe they're just starting out and this is all they have available. So as you can see, it's a very powerful tool for you, and it's very helpful for us so that we can advocate on your behalf. If you're marketing to HHS, we're able to say, no, we got some guys. Also here, and very important, I think anyone who's trying to capture work wants to know is our forecast opportunities are listed here also. So if I went to National Institutes of Health, here are the list of contract opportunities that they think would be of interest to small business. 238290. I did not set that up. I'm just lucky that came up first, right? High containment IDIQ service contract. 8A sole source, that's what they're expecting. Contract range between 3 and 7 million. I can't say it better than I can show you, right? So it is my every hope that everyone who hopes to do business at HHS utilizes this service. It is free to you. Finally, I would be, I have to talk about these last two. So upcoming events are also listed here. Once a month, our office hosts small business outreach the second Tuesday of every month. You have an opportunity to meet with myself and any other small business specialists within OSDBU. We have a 15-minute kind of like a speed dating kind of thing. I think you've done, if anyone's done matchmaking, it's not much different from that. Here in 2021, it's all virtual now, but that's all right. Same effect. We also have an event where we have OSDBU office hours where you may talk to the deputy director directly and she answers any questions that you may have. And that schedule here is listed here. Our annual, we have 4 major events, outreach events. HHS, before the year that shall not be named, right? We would go across the country and host outreach events. Of course, now trying to be responsible, we just do them virtually. But we hope in the future we'll be able to do that again near you, at a town or major city near you. So if you want to request the outreach event, I know Miranda remembers this form. So this is the form to request outreach events for us to come out and participate at your events or programs. And we actually have a video I wish I could share with you right now. I'm not going to run that video, but you know, there's a lot of good things that we have here. Now, also, I'm going to take you, unfortunately, the SBCX is independent of the HHS website. For security reasons and everything like that, we just try to keep it separate because it's public facing. You have, you know, with security, IT security concerns now, you don't want anyone to be able to backdoor into the HHS IT environment. So this is totally separate. But if you wanted to reach out to the HHS Small Business Points of Contact, you want to go to HHS OSDBU. Y'all can see this as I go along, right? Anyone nodding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Trust but verify. So here is the website where you want to see our list of small business specialists. And I'm sure I piqued someone's interest out there when I talked about Indian Health Services. John Ferguson is your point of contact for Indian Health Services. I am your point of contact for the National Institutes of Health Office of Research Facilities program. And that is our list here. Let me see if I review the forecast opportunities, outreach. All of this will take you to the My SBCX website that we were discussing a moment ago. All right. So now let's stop that part. How am I on time?
You're just about where you should probably ask for questions. If that was the last that you wanted to know, I know at the very end you said you had to talk about 2 things, so want to make sure you can.
All right. And we are there. Do I have any questions?
Sean, is there any in the chat?
No questions in the chat, Wayne. I think you covered everything. I'm sure we'll have some follow-ups.
No. I wouldn't. I'd be looking forward to talking to Jeff. Jeff's the guy with the money. So I'm just a warm up, and I'm just happy to do that. Before I let you all go, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and present to you all. It is a privilege to be a civil servant. Um, it is a privilege to advocate on behalf of capable small businesses like yourselves out here, and I just hope that you continue to do what you can to serve yourselves, your family, your local communities. And thank you very much for having me today.
Thanks so much, Wayne. We did have a question come in real quick. Can you direct award to 8As?
Well, of course you can.
Great answer.
Absolutely. It can direct award to 8As. And we do a significant amount of money and 8A awards in construction and all services. Actually, HHS, when we talk about our small business goals, when it comes to women-owned small business through 8A women-owned, we double our actual doubles our goals. So that's not a problem here. When it comes to hub zone and service disabled veteran owned, if it wasn't for construction, we would be abysmally bad. But it's actually through construction that we're even close to meeting those goals. So I hope that answers your question.
Great. That was a great answer.
All right. And I'm going to let you go. I want to also want to thank Miranda for her patience and getting me together and keeping me together on this event, inviting me to this event and keeping me together. Sometimes civil service is like herding cats, and I was a cat that she kept up with. So I want to thank you and appreciate you. All right.
Thanks again, Wayne. We appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, Jeff, well, I guess we'll kick it over to you.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Jeff McCoy. I've been at NIH for about 5 years. And today I'm going to give you a quick presentation. I'm going to cover a few topics. I'm going to talk about NIH, our history, our mission. I talk a little bit about our facilities portfolio, and then our construction program, and then talk a little bit about doing business at NIH. So anyway, to kick off, NIH has been in the news quite a bit over the last year. You probably recognize this guy, Dr. Fauci. Heard him talking a lot about COVID-19, but he's been around for a while. He's been talking about the flu, Ebola, HIV. So NIH is more than just COVID-19. It's a pretty amazing mission. If you go on the NIH website, there's actually some really neat data about the NIH mission. In almost every aspect of health, NIH is doing research, from heart disease and diabetes and cancer down to some really, obscure things, but important, like, teeth, birth rates, hearing. So anyway, just as most of you in the facilities construction industry can appreciate, it can be a pretty brutal business. And, one of the things I love about working at NIH is, every time some of the challenges get you down, you just start thinking about the research that you're supporting, the mission that you're supporting. And I think it gives us all a little pep in our step here at NIH. So NIH, a little bit of history, has roots in the public health service. So back in 1978, Congress established the U.S. Marine Hospital Service to care for sick and injured merchant seamen. So the Secretary of the Treasury would dock 20 cents from each seaman and put it towards contracted hospital services for them. So that lasted for quite a while, but then in the late 1800s, Congress asked this Marine Hospital Service to start looking at immigrants coming in to New York City and looking out for contagious diseases. And then in 1889, Congress established the Public Health Service Commission Corps, and made them a uniform service with ranks similar to the Navy. So back in 1887, with a $300 budget, the Marine Hospital Service established a one-room laboratory of hygiene. So that was back in 1887, and I understand that's the last time a NIH facility project actually came in on budget. So anyway, in 1891, this hygienic laboratory was moved to Washington, D.C. It was the name was changed to NIH, and then in 1935, NIH moved to Bethesda. So NIH was gifted 45 acres. You can see this picture of the original quad of buildings. You can see in the background, that's building 10 starting to come up. So, and that's basically where NIH was born. The National Institutes, plural, of Health is actually made up of 27 different institutes and centers. So most of us have heard of the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Disease, right? That's Dr. Fauci's institute. So that's one of the big ones. But there's the National Cancer Institute, other big ones like the National Institute of Heart, Lung, and Blood. And then you have small ones like the National Institute for Nursing Research. So anyway, my office supports facilities and construction work for all 27 of these institutes. So NIH has locations, about 7 different locations in the US. So about 90% of our footprint is here in Bethesda, but we also have a campus. Let's see. We have a campus out in Montana that originated from the Rocky Mountain fever back in the early 1900s. We've got a campus down in Research Triangle Park. We have a few buildings that adjoin the Johns Hopkins campus in Baltimore, Maryland. We have a campus out in Frederick, Maryland that supports the National Cancer Institute. We also have a lot of leased facilities out in Rockville, in Gaithersburg, and Bethesda. So anyway, we are the largest land holding and facility holding part of Health and Human Services. So one of our facilities is Building 10, our clinical center. It's the largest clinical research center in the world. It's about 5 million square feet. So it's a building that's right in alignment with the Pentagon in terms of size. And the only patients there are part of clinical research studies. There's currently 1,500 clinical studies in progress at the clinical center. So basically you have inpatient and outpatient clinical areas. You've got a ton of laboratories surrounding these clinical areas. So, the term is from bench to bedside. You can do, your research and then apply the research in clinical trials. So we spend a lot of money and put a lot of attention in the clinical center. It's kind of the heart of the National Institutes of Health. But we also have a lot of other laboratory facilities. So we've got wet labs, we've got dry labs, we've got MRIs, specialized labs for different microscopes, imaging. We've got vivariums, got biosafety laboratories, 2, 3, and 4 levels. We've got all sorts of animals. So we've got rats and mice and bats and farm animals and non-human primates. So we've got quite a few really neat and high-tech laboratories throughout the NIH inventory. Then there's some other really neat buildings here on the Bethesda campus. One of them is the National Library of Medicine. So it's an actual library. And, when it was built back in the 1980s, it was designed for, doctors and researchers to go and actually look at books and check those out. And obviously over time, the mission has gone to more online data. So the National Library of Medicine is more into, data centers and data management now. So it's kind of an evolution of their mission. Wayne Berry mentioned the convent on campus. So the Cloisters Convent is actually the oldest building on the NIH campus, and used to be, obviously a convent. The land was given to NIH, and now it's a training center and a conference center. They actually converted the chapel into a really neat conference area. We've got the Children's Inn at NIH, where children and their families can stay if they're undergoing clinical trials at the clinical center. And then this other picture shows a couple water tanks. One is an industrial water supply system that basically can supply the water the NIH campus needs for 4 days. So we use a lot of water in our chill water and steam production. So that's a good risk management tool in case we ever lose municipal water. We also have this thermal energy storage supply. So this basically allows us to generate chill water in the evening when the energy is cheap, and we can use it during the day when the energy is more expensive. We've got a lot of critical utilities on the campus. You can imagine that the clinical center and all these laboratories are very utility intensive facilities, and they need dependable utilities. So we actually have a great system of utilities throughout the campus. And the heart of that is our central utility plant. So it's one of the largest central utility plants in the country, and provides the campus with chill water, with steam, electricity, and compressed air. So we've got a bunch of chillers. They work in tandem with the thermal storage tank that I talked about. We've got 5 boilers, and we also have one of the largest cogeneration plants in the country that provides about 25% of the electricity for the entire campus. It's one of the cleanest cogeneration plants and one of the most efficient cogeneration plants in the country. Normally the government, when we try to mess around with high-tech stuff, we can sometimes build it successfully, but very few places can actually operate and maintain some of this high-tech facilities. But I think that's one of the things that separates NIH from a lot of other government agencies. We can actually successfully operate them. If you ever get a chance to go into the central utility plant, we have a really incredible control room where a couple operators have all sorts of very convenient data displays, everything from the status of equipment. They can look at the entire campus and see temperature readings and volumetric flows. They can control valves, start up boilers, start up chillers. They can control how much water is going in and out of the thermal energy storage tank. So it's a really high-tech operation. They look at the weather, and based on the next 48 hours of weather, they will either fill or discharge the thermal energy storage tank for maximum efficiency. And one of the neatest things is they actually have a simulator for the control room. So you take these operators and you can get them in the simulator. You can throw the apocalypse scenarios at them where you have a huge chill water leak, and how are they going to control the system so that they can basically maintain operations on the NIH campus. So it's a really neat training tool that the central utility plant guys have. All right. So we're going to start talking now about the construction program here at NIH. We do a volume of, on average, between $200 and $300 million of construction contracts every year. This year is a banner year. We're probably going to award about $800 million worth of construction. So that's really exciting. One of the neat projects that we just wrapped up is this tumor infiltrating lymphocyte cell processing modular facility in support of the National Cancer Institute. So they basically take white blood cells from patients, bring them into these clean room labs, manipulate them to basically fight cancer, and then inject them back into the patients. This is a pretty amazing research that literally saves lives, and exciting that this facility will basically quadruple National Cancer Institute's ability to do that research. So it's a state-of-the-art clean room facility. It's built, the exterior is stick built. We have a mechanical room, penthouse that's stick built, but basically the laboratory and admin spaces were constructed using 10 prefabricated modules. So we awarded the design build contract in September of 2017. We finished construction last fall. We had a very intensive commissioning and testing process. So that basically completed in March, and NCI is basically doing the final qualifications in order to get this facility up and running. So that's very exciting. You can see these pictures of the shell and putting the modules in place. These are some pictures of the final facility, the exterior, and then one of the clean rooms inside the facility. So we're very proud of that. Another thing we're very proud of is NIH has its own design review manual. So this is basically a standard for policy, design requirements, and technical criteria. It's developed in-house by our engineers with some assistance from experts around the country, but really developed in-house, and it's very well updated and maintained. We have here at NIH about 15 different groups of subject matter experts who review every design submission. So it's a process that, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, when we're done with the design after all of these reviews by all of these experts, it's generally a very high quality design. The tough thing is that those reviews come at a price, primarily schedule. It takes us a while to get through those designs. We just had a design submission get reviewed for one of our new buildings, and we got 1,400 comments that need to be resolved for that single design submission. So it takes time. It's very work intensive for our A&Es and for my project teams to try to reconcile and address all of those design comments, and ultimately that drives up the cost of our designs. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. I would say one of the things that we're looking at is trying to come up with more optimal ways to go through this process, keep the high quality, but try to get a little bit more efficient. Another project that's going on is the Building 10 E-Wing renovation. This is our largest ongoing construction project. We awarded a $200 million construction contract in September 2017, and currently we're scheduled for completion in December of 2022. You can see this is one of the wings of, the clinical center. It's actually in part of the original part of the clinical center built in the 1950s. So a lot of challenges on this project, but one of our challenges at NIH is we have a lot of aging technical facilities. So we've got a large backlog of maintenance and repair, aka BMAR, and the only way to tackle it, to make a dent, is projects like this, where we're just renovating large portions. But these projects are very, very challenging. As I mentioned, this building was originally built in the 1950s. It's had countless renovations and modifications and new equipment installs. So our as-built drawings were not great. As we went along, as we demolished, we uncovered literally hundreds of issues of utility surprises, conduits that are running from, through the E-wing to other areas of the clinical center that needed to basically be maintained to support, ongoing missions there. So that was very challenging. And then, we're putting modern state-of-the-art laboratories in these spaces where you've got, 12-foot slab to slab heights. So it's just hard to cram all of the utilities that you need in that area. I show here our BIM model of our 12th floor, which is a CGMP space, and it's crazy. I mean, there's so many different layers of utilities that have to go in. So that's been one of the major challenges that we've had on the E-wing. Another challenge that we have in health and human services, and I grew up in DoD. I think a lot of the folks in the audience are DoD folks. We had the MILCON program, and we hated the MILCON program, right? It was so slow, and it was so competitive to get construction dollars. But one actual good thing about the MILCON program was it was very predictable, right? You could see 2-3 years out when money was going to pop. So that predictability is one thing that we don't have here in health and human services. So for the E-wing, my leadership was begging for funding for the longest time for E-wing, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it showed up, and they're like, here's the money, and oh, by the way, you've got to obligate this money this fiscal year. So it was a big scramble to try to obligate the money. We had to accelerate the design. We had to award the construction contract while we still had, a dozen or so stakeholders still operating in the E-wing. So it was a big rush to vacate them. So that was another challenge for the E-wing, but we're working through it. So another neat project that we've got going on here on the campus is our pharmacy renovation. I don't know if folks were watching the news back in 2016, but there was a big article about safety at NIH, and there was a pretty broad, I guess, audit of safety practices. And, there were a lot of things that came out of it, but one of it was some of our CGMP spaces didn't fully comply with the latest FDA requirements. So NIH really, I think, put in place a lot of organizations that went on to ensure that our CGMP spaces were, fully compliant, state of the art, and the pharmacy renovation was kind of a result of that. So we basically needed to renovate the entire space of the pharmacy department to include some clean rooms for compliant sterile compounding and hazardous and non-hazardous drug storage areas. We also had to build a new penthouse in the middle of the clinical center. So that's why you see this huge crane here. This is the largest crane to ever operate on the NIH campus. When it's fully erect, it's 500 feet high. It's a 375-ton crane, and it basically needs to stretch 400 feet over to help us assemble this penthouse. So anyway, it's definitely a challenge, but it's kind of one of those neat construction challenges that we're working through. So we had a $500 million design build contract that we awarded in September of 2019. We were pushing for speed. We split the design up into two parts so that we could design the penthouse quickly and get that rolling. And then we knew the pharmacy spaces were going to take a little bit longer. So anyway, we were tracking to have this thing done in 2 years. Inevitably, one of the challenges with CGMP is the requirements and the FDA's oversight. It evolves so quickly that halfway through the design, we had to shift gears. Instead of some biosafety cabinets, we had to put in some isolators. So that basically delayed us about 5 months. We had to basically go backwards in the design. But anyway, we're tracking to complete this project in January 2022. And then here's some pictures of this crane being assembled a couple months ago. It's pretty awesome. In the upper right corner, you can see it stretch out along our road. So this is DPR's crane, and the very tip of the crane is placed right next to a construction trailer for Whiting Turner. So there's a little construction company rivalry there and intimidation by the large crane. All right. Next construction project, another fun one. We got a lot of funding for Alzheimer's disease research. So the National Institute of Aging wanted us to quickly build them a facility. So we found a footprint in the southwest corner of the campus that was available. And we have a little video here that hopefully, there we go, we can show you. So this was a design build contract that was awarded in February of last year. And we're currently tracking to complete this project in February of next year. So in 2 years, we will hopefully have designed and constructed this facility, which for here at NIH, that'll be light speed. That'll be a new record. So like I said, it's design build, and the laboratories and admin space are all constructed through modulars. So the modulars are right now being fabricated in a facility down in Florida. So they'll be shipped up to campus hopefully this summer and put in place and put together. So anyway, we're really excited about this facility. It's the first project that one of our new large businesses on our MAC, Hensel Phelps, is doing. So it's so far very successful. All right, and here's some renderings of the facility. Knock on wood, February of next year, March of next year, we'll be done. All right, and then the final construction project I wanted to touch upon is a huge new capital project, the surgery, radiology, and laboratory medicine building. This is going to be one of the biggest programs that NIH has taken on in a long time, somewhere in the neighborhood of $550 million. Hopefully we'll be awarding this design build construction project later this year. I talked about the challenges with BMAR and how do you how do you address all this aging infrastructure? You know, the one way is to go the E-wing route, where you take a huge wing, empty it, and gut it. Another way is you just build, you know, a new addition, and you demolish some of the old buildings, and that's the what's going to go on right here. Right. So so this is going to be pretty neat. You know, I think the more utility intensive some of these clinical and laboratory spaces get, the more mechanical space that you need. So not only does this new facility have a lot of interstitial mechanical space, it's also got vertical mechanical areas. So, you know, the goal is to hopefully never be limited, you know, as laboratories evolve and need, you know, different modifications and utilities. Hopefully we'll never be limited by the access to utilities. So anyway, that is a very exciting project. All right, I know Wayne Berry covered a lot of this, but just real quick, I know folks are interested in how to do business at NIH. You know, I would offer, you know, if you're an A&E, if you're a construction contractor, what you'll want to do is get on one of our acquisition tools. So, you know, for my division, we have basically two primary tools. We've got a construction multi-award construction contract, and we have an A&E multi-award task order contract. I mean, we basically use that for 90% of our business. So, you know, if I were an A&E or construction contractor and I wanted to do business on NIH, I would try to get on those tools. So how do you get on those tools? I would say the first thing you need to do is develop, you know, a expertise in working in laboratories, clinical and utility work. And you need to establish good past performance. When we put these tools into place, you know, we looked at, you know, your qualifications and did you have an outstanding past performance record? If you had those things, then you were competitive for these tools. So when we're getting ready to develop these tools, you know, we post these things in FedBizOps. We try to give you know, the industry, you know, plenty of heads up on when we're developing these tools. One opportunity for communication is to participate in our Office of Acquisitions quarterly small business meetings. I have a email address if you want to get on the distro for invites to those small business meetings. You know, another way to get your foot in the door is to partner with some of the prime contractors on the MAC and the AE MATOC. So the next slide, I show you a list of the prime contractors. You know, one message that I try to make clear whenever I talk to industry partners is, for me at least, performance is everything. If you come to NIH, yeah, you need to come, you know, basically ready to hit the ground running. This isn't an area, a place to cut your teeth, a place to learn. You need to hit the ground running. So we expect good performance. All right, and then this is a slide that shows all of the prime contractors on our construction MAC and AE MATOC. So you know, again, another way to kind of get your foot in the door is to work with these companies and see if they need any subcontractors of your company's particular expertise. So I think I am at just over half an hour, so talked a lot. I will take a few questions. I do have to run here in just a bit.
Jeff, yeah, we have three questions. We have Stacy asked, how are you addressing growing OT challenges with ICS cyber protection? Are you looking at your utilities for upgrades?
Okay. OT challenges with ICS cyber protection. So, you know, utility dependability, I mean, it's very important for us, not only for IT, but just all of our labs have are very sensitive. So we have a lot of generators for backup power, UPSs. We've got multiple feeders for the campus for electrical, water. We're always doing vulnerability assessments for our different utilities. As I mentioned, for the central utility plant, we train our operators on almost every different casualty that you could possibly imagine on campus, whether a chill water pipe break, or a boiler shutting down, or the cogeneration plant having an issue. So those are some areas how we try to emphasize utility dependability.
Thanks for that, Jeff. We got one more. Mike asked, does NIH have a preference of design build versus design bid build?
That's a great question. I would say, that's an important consideration. I think there's some advantages and disadvantages of design build, design bid build. I think we got to look, on a case-by-case basis. We got to analyze the situation and figure out what's right. In some cases, our funding stream dictates which way we go. For example, the SLRM, the timing of the funding actually kind of dictated which way we're going to go. And that can be the case for a lot of projects. In some cases, we'll start out with an A&E, not knowing necessarily which way to go. If the A&E's performance is really strong, then a lot of times we'll push to finish out the design with that A&E. I would say there's a lot of advantages to design build that we like. When we have those projects, then NIH doesn't have to be in the middle of these finger pointing battles between the designer and the construction contractor. We're running into a little bit of that with our E-Wing project. So that's a huge advantage of design build. I would say that in some cases with design build, for example, we did design build for some of our CGMP projects, and it's just so difficult to define the requirements in your bridging documents of what you actually want. Through our design review process, we just get too prescriptive. So we can't truly follow, the design build process for some of those really technical state-of-the-art facilities. So it's a great question. It's a question, I struggle with and really try to examine all the different sides.
Great. We have one more from Chris. Chris asked, is environmental planning work handled in-house or contracted? If contracted, is it through the prime AE firms as a sub or directly with NEPA service providers?
It's, I think, almost exclusively handled in-house. I don't think we've contracted any of those efforts. I think our division of planning handles all of that in-house.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that was the last question. I think that's it. Jeff, we just want to thank you and Wayne for a great presentation tonight. Really enjoyed it and really got a lot out of it. Yeah, thanks everyone for attending tonight. We really appreciate it.